Hey y'all, it's Tiffany with Boss on a Budget. I help new and small nonprofits get up and running. So if you need help with your nonprofit or if you need help raising money for your new nonprofit, make sure you subscribe to this channel because I drop videos all the time. I really wanted to do this video because there's a lot of confusion around the startup process in general, especially when it comes to LLCs. It's like LLCs are like a buzzword or something in the startup space, and a lot of people assume that like that's the first step for starting any kind of business. And so I want to just kind of clear this up when it comes to nonprofits. First things first, you're going to hear me say this a lot in this video, but I'm going to make sure I get it out the way immediately. If you are asking questions about your LLC and how to turn into a nonprofit, you really need to speak to an attorney or a paid professional like an accountant, right? Or a consultant who can walk you through this information based on your individual circumstances. When it comes to setting up business entities, it's very specific to the state you set it up in. And it's also very specific to what your needs are. And so you may be listening to a general YouTube video and not understand that you have a certain situation that you need to consider in everything you're trying to decide for the direction of your nonprofit. So I'm just gonna say this is not gonna be the only time you're gonna hear this, but it'll be the first time. You need to speak with an attorney. This is just general advice. I'm going to give you general information to help guide you through that conversation once you talk to somebody so you understand the things to consider and what to be mindful of. But please talk to somebody if you're confused about your LLC and turning it into a nonprofit. Now, in this video, when I'm talking about nonprofits, I mean a nonprofit that's seeking 501c3 status. Now, the reason why I'm doing this video is because I get this question a lot when I talk to people on the phone. A lot of people will be really gung-ho about starting a business, so they'll start a business and create an LLC thinking that that's the first step and then they can get 501c3 status. This is what I want you to keep in mind though. Generally, if you are an LLC, you are not able to get 501c3 status. But I'm going to slow walk this because there are so many caveats around this and I want to make sure you get it, okay? So there is actually a process where LLCs can get 501c3 status. There is a process in place, but it's a convoluted process and the members of the LLC have to also be 501c3s. It's a really layered process. It's complicated. And more than likely, it does not fit your particular situation if you're just one person who thought you needed to do an LLC first. So let me just put that out there, right? So if you do look up this information, you're going to see that LLCs can possibly apply for 501c3 status, but it's under certain circumstances that usually don't apply to you. So when you're just a person wanting to start a nonprofit because you have a passion and a vision, you need to be setting up a corporation in your state, a nonprofit corporation. Now, this is again why you need to speak to a lawyer who understands your specific situation, because there are different types of business entities that you can set up in order to get 501c3 status. You could possibly be an association, you could possibly be a trust, depending on what you want to do. Generally, if you're doing direct services and you're serving the public, generally you're going to be set up as a nonprofit corporation, right? And usually when I talk people through the startup process, that's the assumption that you are a nonprofit corporation. So I broke some of this down in a video that I did called What Are the Articles of Incorporation? I'm linking that above and I'm also providing it in the description box so you can easily find it, so you can understand like the process of incorporating, right? Now, I'm going to walk through a little bit more of this, but I also want you to stay to the end, because if you're in the position where you've already created your LLC and you're like, oh snap, I didn't realize I shouldn't have done that. What do I do now? I'm going to share at the end of this video what you should do next, okay? But let's finish up our conversation talking about LLC in terms of being a nonprofit and getting 501c3 status. When you're setting this up at the state level, be sure that you're actually setting up a nonprofit corporation, because there are for-profit corporations and they have different names from state to state. In my home state, it's called a stock corporation or a non-stock corporation. Now, when I set up my very first nonprofit, when I was a grad student way back in the early 2000s, I had no idea what that meant. I had never heard of the word non-stock. I had no clue, right? And so if you don't know the language in your state and you don't do the work to figure out like the differences between the two, you can make some mistakes. right? And you don't want to do that in this process. It's very important that how you set up your nonprofit, what you put on your application to the IRS is correct, because one thing, like one mistake, can take you down a really costly road. So I did a video called the #1 mistake that people make applying for tax exempt status, because I try to lift up these things for people, because if you can't afford for people to do this for you, you just need to know what to look out for. So I'm linking that video above. And also I just want to mention my nonprofit startup masterclass. And I recorded a masterclass for over 2 hours where I talked through like how to set up your nonprofit, the strategy behind it, but also like the logistics and what to do and what language you need to make sure you have in your articles of incorporation, and how to make sure you fill out the applications and make sure you check this box and not check this box, down to that level. So if you're interested in that and if you need help like that, then make sure you check out the Nonprofit Startup Masterclass. So if you're still watching this video, you might be one of those people who set up your LLC thinking you can get 501c3 status, and you may be saying to yourself now, what am I supposed to do? Now, this process really does depend on the state. So I'm going to walk you through some alternatives or some options, but they may not be an option for you depending on your state. So sometimes your state will allow you to kind of change the business structure. They may have a form where you can change it, right? Where you can transfer things or you can switch things over, especially if you're a new nonprofit or if it's less than a year that you got started, right? So you need to contact the Secretary of State's office and see if there's some kind of form you can use to transfer or change the entity type easily. The other option is for you to completely dissolve the LLC and just start over, start from scratch. Just create your nonprofit corporation like you were supposed to in the first place and just dissolve the LLC, right? And again, I'm giving these as options, but a lot of this depends on the state and it depends on what you're advised to do from a lawyer. I'm only giving that option. I'm just giving you general advice. Another option for you may be that you keep the LLC and the LLC somehow is in support of the nonprofit. Maybe some of the earned income from your LLC can be used to donate to support the activities of the nonprofit. A lot of people do that, and you're completely within your rights to do that as long as you're following the rules. So that may be another option for you as well. So you have 3 potential options, and there may be even more options that I don't know of because I don't live in your state, that are available to you if you kind of started off on the wrong foot and went forward with an LLC. I hope this information was helpful to you all. I hope you were able to learn something. And if you feel like somebody else in your circle needs this information, don't forget to share this video with them, or just to tell them about Boss in a Budget and tell them about the work that I do to support new nonprofits, because we all need each other, right? And a lot of times people hold information they don't like to share, they're territorial, and you're just trying to do a good thing. You're just trying to live out your vision, what's been placed inside of you. So I want to kind of get through those barriers and give you the information and the facts so you can make good decisions and get started on your way. So thank you so much for watching. If you need more help, make sure you check out www.bossinabudget.com, and I will see you in the next video.